An incredible creature has lived on this planet for so long that it remembers a world without flowers. Not in the sense of lacking colors, but in the sense of having no flowering plants at all. When it first appeared, there were no roses, no daisies, and no grass as we know it. There were no birds. Dinosaurs had not even been born yet it was already here, and it already possessed a skill that we still cannot replicate, the ability to produce its own silk. This creature is a spider, and right now while you are watching this video, one of them is likely sitting in a corner of your room. I know how you feel. Perhaps you shuddered. Maybe you felt the urge to check the ceiling. That's perfectly normal. Spiders are among the most disliked creatures on the planet. We fear them. We squash them with our shoes. We flinch when they drop from the ceiling in the bathroom. Yet we know almost nothing about them. We don't even know what they truly are, because the first thing most people do is label a spider as an insect. But it is not an insect. It belongs to an entirely different world. Let's clarify. An insect has 6 legs and 3 body segments: head, thorax, abdomen. A spider has 8 legs and only 2 segments. It has a completely different internal structure, a different circulatory system, and a different way of breathing. A spider is closer to a scorpion and a tick than it is to a fly or a mosquito. They all belong to the same class, arachnids. So when you call a spider an insect, it's like calling a dolphin a fish. They may seem similar, but in reality they are entirely different creatures with distinct histories. Now let's talk about the scale of this story. Scientists have officially described more than 48,000 species of spiders. 48,000. And every year, they discover between 100 and 300 new species, not in the depths of the ocean, but literally in forests, fields, caves, and cities. Spiders inhabit every continent except Antarctica. They have been found at altitudes of 6,000 meters. That's higher than Everest's base camp. You climb the mountains gasping for oxygen while a spider sits there, feeling right at home. Now, let's discuss how this spider is structured, because this is where the real wonder begins. On the outside, a spider is covered by a chitinous exoskeleton. It's like armor, but lightweight. The problem is that this armor does not grow along with the spider. It is rigid. Therefore, to grow, a spider must shed its old shell and wait for the new one to harden. This process is called molting, and during this time, the spider is completely defenseless. For several hours it is soft, vulnerable, and cannot run or resist. Imagine having to shed all your skin and wait for new skin to grow. Every spider goes through this several times in its life. Eyes. Most spiders have 8 of them. You would think that with 8 eyes they should see everything. But no, most spiders see the world in a blur, as if through fogged glass. They are excellent at detecting movement. Something flits by, and the spider reacts, but they cannot discern details. However, there is one family that completely breaks this rule: jumping spiders. Inside their heads, they have muscles that move the retina of their eyes, literally move it. This creates an effect comparable to the optical zoom of a camera. A jumping spider can focus on an object and examine it in detail with a precision that astounds even scientists studying vision. Now, blood. Have you ever wondered what color a spider's blood is? It is blue. Not red like yours and mine, but blue. Because instead of iron, which carries oxygen in our blood and makes it red, a spider uses copper for this purpose. And this is not a coincidence. It is an evolutionary adaptation. Copper is better at transporting oxygen in cold conditions at low temperatures. Spiders are among the few creatures that are literally adapted from birth to survive in cold environments. Breathing. We breathe with lungs, and our lungs are essentially 2 bags with a branched system of tubes. Spiders are different. They have what are called book lungs, an organ that looks like a stack of thin plates layered on top of each other, with air pockets between them. Oxygen passes through these plates and enters the blood. This is a completely different principle, a different architecture of breathing, and it has been working for hundreds of millions of years. But the most incredible part is the legs. You've probably noticed that a dead spider always lies with its legs curled up. Always. Not stretched out, not in a random position, but specifically curled up against its body. Do you know why? Because a spider has no muscles that straighten its legs. None at all. Its legs operate on hydraulics. The spider pumps fluid into its legs, and the pressure of this fluid straightens them. When a spider dies, the pressure drops, and the legs curl back. It's as if you could walk only because the right pressure of fluid is constantly maintained in your legs. Every step a spider takes is a tiny engineering operation. And here's the last detail that gives me chills. For small species of spiders, the brain is so large relative to the body that it physically does not fit inside the head. It doesn't fit. So the nerve tissue is distributed throughout the legs. This means that a spider literally thinks with its legs. Part of its nervous system is in its limbs because there simply isn't enough space in its tiny head for the entire computing center. And here you are, standing with a shoe in your hand, looking at a creature that is older than dinosaurs, breathes through a stack of plates, walks on hydraulics, sees the world through 8 eyes, bleeds blue blood, and thinks with its legs. Maybe it's time to put down the shoe and listen further? Have you ever looked at a spider web early in the morning when it's covered in dew? It looks like a piece of jewelry. Perfect circles, smooth lines, droplets of water hanging like beads on a silver thread. Beautiful. But beauty is just the beginning of the story, because spider silk is one of the most perfect materials that exist on planet Earth, and humanity, with all its technologies and laboratories, still cannot reproduce it. Let's start with how spider silk is produced. Most people think that a spider releases a thread, it hardens in the air, and that's it, like glue from a tube. But no, inside a spider, silk is a liquid protein, just a liquid. It does not harden upon contact with air. It hardens when it is stretched. The spider takes the thread with its leg and pulls it, and this mechanical effort triggers the crystallization process. The protein changes its structure at the moment of tension, transforming from liquid into an incredibly strong thread. A spider is a walking factory that produces material without heating it, without using chemicals, without consuming electricity. It simply pulls, and it's ready. And this is not just one thread. A single spider can have up to 7 different types of glands, and each produces silk with completely different properties. One gland produces a sticky thread coated with microscopic droplets of glue. This is for catching prey. Another produces a strong supporting thread that holds the entire structure. It is not sticky at all. A third provides soft silk for wrapping captured prey. A fourth creates a dense material for a cocoon in which eggs will develop. A fifth produces lightweight, almost weightless silk that allows tiny spiderlings to travel through the air. One spider, 7 types of silk, each for its own purpose. It's as if you had a workshop in your hands that could produce rope, film, fabric, or adhesive tape on command. Now let's talk about strength, and here come numbers that sound like fiction. If you take a spider silk thread and a steel wire of the same diameter and start pulling them in opposite directions, the silk will break later. It is about 5 times stronger than steel in terms of tensile strength. But that's not all. Steel is rigid. It barely stretches. Spider silk can stretch up to 40% of its length without breaking. This means it is simultaneously stronger than steel and as elastic as rubber. Such a combination of strength and flexibility in one material has not yet been reproduced by humanity on an industrial scale. We fly in space, we split atoms, we have created artificial intelligence, but we cannot replicate the thread made by a creature the size of a fingernail. And there is one species that has taken this mastery to a level that is hard to comprehend. In Madagascar, there lives a spider known as Darwin's bark spider. It weaves webs right over rivers, not between bushes, not in a corner of a room, but over water. The length of its webs can reach 25 meters. That's longer than a standard swimming pool. And the threads of this spider are twice as strong as the silk of any other known species. This is an absolute record among all biological materials that exist in nature. Neither bone, nor horn, nor shell, nor tooth can compare in tensile strength to the thread of this tiny Madagascan spider. And here's a question that has surely crossed your mind. If the silk is so sticky, why doesn't the spider get stuck to it? It walks on it every day. The answer is that the spider knows exactly which threads are sticky and which are not. It only moves along the supporting threads that are not coated with glue. Plus, its feet are covered with a special oily substance that reduces adhesion. The spider is the master of its own home, and it knows every inch of that home by heart. Building a circular web is not a chaotic process. It is a strict sequence of steps that is repeated the same way every time. First, the spider stretches a bridge thread. It throws it between two supports. Then, it builds the frame. Next, it lays radial spokes from the center to the edges, like the spokes of an umbrella. Only after that does it begin to wind the sticky spiral, from the edges to the center. Each step depends on the previous one, and each stage prepares for the next. This is an architectural project that the spider executes without blueprints, without training, and without a single mistake. And here's what is most astonishing. Spiderlings that have just hatched from their cocoons and have never seen an adult spider weave a proper circular web on the first try. The very first try. No one taught them. They didn't watch how their mother did it. They simply know. It is an innate program encoded in their nervous system. A geometric instruction passed down from generation to generation, not through learning, but through genes. Imagine a child being born and building a house on the very first day. Not a hut, not a pyramid of blocks, but a real functional engineering perfect house. When a web ages or gets damaged, the spider does not abandon it. It eats it. It breaks down the protein back into amino acids, digests it, and uses those same molecules to weave a new web. Complete recycling, zero waste production. No factory of ours operates with such efficiency. But not all spiders weave beautiful circular webs, and the diversity here is simply staggering. Funnel web spiders build a flat sheet of silk with a tubular shelter at the edge. Prey falls onto the sheet, and the spider jumps out of the tube and grabs it. Other species create three-dimensional structures, chaotic interweavings of threads in all directions, something like a volumetric trap in which the victim gets tangled not in one plane, but in all of them at once. Others sit inside a silk tube and extend their legs outside, sensing vibrations. And the water spider is a story all its own. It builds an underwater dome of silk, fills it with air brought from the surface on the hairs of its body, and lives inside this air bell. Underwater, in a bubble of silk. This is the only known case among all arthropods where an animal creates a dwelling underwater and breathes there with stored air. The spider built itself a submarine out of silk long before humans learned to dive. Young spiderlings disperse using the air. They climb to a high point, release a long thread, and the wind catches it, and the spiderling flies away, sometimes for hundreds of kilometers. They have been found in the open ocean, on ships, on islands thousands of kilometers from the nearest land. But recently, scientists discovered something truly astonishing. Spiderlings can take off even in complete calm, when there is no wind at all. They use the Earth's electric field. Their silk threads become charged with static electricity and repel from the surface, lifting the spiderling upward. The spider flies on electricity, without wings, without a motor, without wind. And the final touch to this picture. Some tropical spiders weave yellow silk, and this is not a coincidence. The yellow threads mimic flowers, attracting bees and other insects that come for a meal and become a meal themselves. Some species produce threads that reflect ultraviolet light, light invisible to us but clearly visible to insects. For a fly, such a web looks like a bright light signal, like a neon sign in the dark. A spider does not just build a trap, it designs it for a specific prey, from specific materials, according to a specific blueprint. And all of this without a single lesson, without a teacher, without a school, simply because it is a spider. When we think about how a spider hunts, one image comes to mind. A web in the corner, a fly flies in, gets tangled, and the spider rushes over. Simple, clear, boring. But the reality is so far from this image that when you learn what some spiders are capable of, it will seem to you that we are not talking about a small eight-legged creature, but about a character from some science fiction film. Let's start with the fact that about half of all spider species on the planet do not use trapping webs at all. No webs, no traps. They hunt actively, running, jumping, lying in wait, pursuing prey like true predators. For them, silk is not a weapon, but a tool for other tasks, and they catch food with their legs, speed, and cunning. Wolf spiders are one of the most vivid examples. They do not wait for someone to stumble into their path. They venture into open terrain and chase after prey. They simply run, like little wolves, catch up and grab. But what's most interesting about this species is not the hunting, but the motherhood. The female wolf spider attaches her egg sac to her body and carries it with her everywhere. She does not hide the eggs, nor does she leave them in a shelter. She carries her future offspring on her back and continues to hunt. And when these spiderlings hatch, they climb onto their mother's back and sit there. Dozens of tiny spiderlings riding on their mother, while she runs around catching food. This is not a metaphor. It literally happens. The mother spider carries an entire brood on her back while remaining a full-fledged hunter. But while the wolf spider relies on speed and strength, the Ebola spider relies purely on ingenuity. This spider does not weave webs at all. Instead, it does something so clever that when scientists first described it, they were met with skepticism. The Ebola spider produces a small sticky ball at the end of a thread and swings it in the air. The ball is soaked in special substances that smell exactly like the female of a certain species of moth. A male moth senses this scent, flies toward it thinking he has found a mate, and gets stuck in the ball. But that's not all. At different times of the night, the spider changes the chemical composition of the lure because different species of moths fly at different hours. First, it attracts one species. Then, it readjusts its chemical trap and starts attracting another. A spider that changes its bait according to the schedule of its prey. This level of strategy is hard to expect from a creature whose brain is smaller than a pinhead. And the spit spider is a true sniper. It does not run around or swing balls. It shoots. From its chelicerae, its front mouth parts, it releases two zigzagging streams that mix venom and silk. These streams fly toward the target and stick the prey to the surface. The entire process, from the moment the spider decides to shoot to the moment the streams are released, takes 1/128th of a second. That's faster than a blink. And here's a detail that is simply mesmerizing. Before shooting, the spider closes its own eyes to protect them from splashes. It knows there will be splashes. It prepares for it. In a fraction of a second, it makes a decision, closes its eyes, shoots, and hits. Fishing spiders are another example of how far hunting specialization can go. These spiders sit on the shore of a body of water and place their front legs on the surface. They sense vibrations from fish and aquatic insects through surface tension, just as an ordinary spider senses vibrations through its web. Water is their web. When a fish swims close enough, the spider leaps into the water, dives, and grabs its prey. A spider that catches fish with bare legs underwater. Crab spiders have chosen a different tactic: ambush. They sit on flowers and wait for pollinators. A bee or butterfly comes for nectar and ends up right in the predator's grasp. But that's not all. The crab spider can change the color of its body. It adapts to the color of the flower it sits on, shifting from white to yellow and back again. The insect simply does not see it until the last moment. And since we are talking about hunting, we need to mention how spiders eat, because they do not eat in the way we do. No spider on the planet can bite off a piece of food and swallow it. They have neither teeth nor a suitable digestive tract for that. Instead, a spider injects digestive enzymes into its prey. The victim dissolves from the inside, turning into liquid, and the spider sucks up this liquid. External digestion. A spider essentially eats soup, only the soup is prepared right inside its prey. At the same time, large tropical species do not only prey on insects. They can take down frogs, lizards, mice, and even small birds. And if food is scarce, many spiders can go without food for an entire month. Large tarantulas can fast for up to 2 years if water is available. 2 years without food. Try to name another terrestrial creature capable of such a feat. And do you know what is the most unexpected? Among nearly 48,000 species of spiders, there is one that has decided not to be a predator at all. The spider named Bagheera kiplingi from Central America is the only documented spider that primarily feeds on plant material. About 90% of its diet consists of nutritious bodies of acacia, small protein growths at the tips of leaves. Among all these thousands of species of hunters, shooters, fishers, and ambush masters, there is one vegetarian. Now let's talk about what most people fear: venom. And here we need to set the record straight. Of the nearly 48,000 species of spiders, only about 200 are truly dangerous to humans. That's less than 0.5%. The overwhelming majority of spiders either cannot bite through human skin, or their venom is too weak to cause anything more serious than mild redness. You fear a spider, but it is about as dangerous to you as a ladybug. However, those few species that are indeed dangerous deserve respect. The Brazilian wandering spider is one of the few that actively displays defensive behavior. It does not run away or hide. It stands on its hind legs and raises its front legs, displaying its size. It is often found in boxes of bananas, and warehouse workers in tropical countries know very well that they need to check every box. The venom of the black widow acts as a neurotoxin. The sting itself is almost imperceptible, a small bite that you might not even notice. But after 15 minutes, sometimes after an hour, severe pain begins to radiate throughout the body, accompanied by muscle spasms and increased blood pressure. Without medical assistance, this condition can last for several days. The venom of the Australian funnel web spider is a separate mystery of nature. It acts selectively on primates. For dogs or cats, this venom is relatively harmless, but for humans, it is extremely serious. Why specifically primates? Scientists still do not have a definitive answer. Before the antidote was introduced in 1981, 13 people died from this venom. After the antidote was applied, not a single case, not one in over 40 years. Science has solved this problem. A spider is not just an ambush predator in the corner of the ceiling, it is an entire universe of hunting strategies, chemical traps, underwater dives, and sniper shots. And in the next part, we will discover that this creature has something else you definitely did not expect: curiosity, memory, and possibly even dreams. We have come a long way. You have learned how a spider is structured, what it builds its world from, and how it hunts. But all this time we have been talking about it as a mechanism. Complex, amazing, but still a mechanism. 8 legs, hydraulics, silk glands, venom, a biological machine. Now I will tell you about something that will make you question that word, because spiders have something we do not expect to find in a creature the size of a pea. They have character. And perhaps they have dreams. Jumping spiders, remember them? The ones with optical zoom eyes display behavior that scientists call documented curiosity. This is not an interpretation, not a romanticization, but a description of what dozens of researchers have observed in laboratories and in the wild. A jumping spider, when faced with an unfamiliar object, does not run away or attack. It approaches, it inspects, it circles the object and studies it from different angles. It looks into the camera lens and tracks moving objects with such focus that it appears to be interested. Place a mirror in front of it and it will examine its reflection, trying to understand who this is before it. This behavior is something we usually associate with cats, crows, dolphins, but not with arachnids. And this is just the beginning. In experiments, scientists presented jumping spiders with tasks that required several steps to solve. The prey was located at a point that could not be reached directly. They had to first move sideways, climb to a height, cross a bridge, and only then descend to the target. Moreover, halfway through the route, the spider could no longer see the prey. It was out of sight. And the spider succeeded. They remembered where the target was, built a route, and followed it even when the prey was no longer visible. This is called working memory, the ability to retain information about something you are not currently perceiving. This is a cognitive function that had previously not been attributed to arachnids. In 2023, something happened that made headlines in all scientific journals. Young jumping spiders exhibited behavior that researchers cautiously labeled as play. The spiderlings performed repetitive movements that had no utilitarian purpose. They were not hunting, not weaving webs, not escaping danger. They simply moved, rhythmically, over and over again, as if they were having fun. In animals, such behavior is considered one of the signs of play behavior, and play in biology is a significant marker that indicates the level of development of the nervous system. And dreams. This sounds almost impossible. Dreams in a spider. But here's what scientists observed. At night, when jumping spiders were at rest, they began to exhibit rapid twitches of their limbs. Their legs jerked, their bodies changed position, and those agile eyes inside their heads began to shift as if the spider were examining something with its eyes closed. This pattern closely resembles the rapid eye movement, REM phase of sleep, that we know from mammals, the very phase in which dreams occur. Scientists do not claim that spiders see images in their dreams as we do, but they say that spiders experience a state that remarkably resembles what we experience every night. A creature with a brain the size of a poppy seed may indeed dream. Spiders are not just solitary creatures. Some species live in colonies, and the scale of these colonies is astonishing. Up to 50,000 individuals build one gigantic communal web, hunt together for prey that a lone spider could not overcome, and feed all the spiderlings in the colony without distinguishing between their own and others. Imagine a city made of webs, where tens of thousands of spiders operate as a single organism, without orders, without hierarchy, without bosses. And motherhood in spiders takes forms that can take your breath away. The female of one species of social spider first feeds her young with a nutritious liquid that she regurgitates from her own body. When this liquid runs low and the spiderlings begin to need more food, the mother lies down in the center of the brood and allows the young to feed on her body. She literally gives herself up, down to the last cell. This process is called matrophagy, and it exists in several species of spiders. A mother who turns into food for her children so they can survive. It's hard to imagine a more complete form of self-sacrifice. Males of many species communicate with females through vibrations. They drum their legs on the surface, creating rhythmic patterns. Each species has its unique vibrational code, like a song that the female hears through sensitive hairs on her legs. This is not just tapping, it is a message encoded in rhythm and frequency, and if the male performs it incorrectly, the female will not accept him. A spider can regenerate what it has lost. If a spider loses a leg, in battle, during a failed molt, or from a predator's attack, during the next molt, a new leg begins to grow in place of the lost one. After several molts, the leg fully regenerates. Limb regeneration is a capability that draws immense interest from biomedical researchers because understanding how a spider does this could bring us closer to understanding how to help humans regenerate lost tissues. And here we come to what spiders are already giving humanity right now. From spider venom, scientists have isolated substances that reduce blood pressure in blood vessels. They have found compounds promising for the treatment of heart diseases. They have discovered peptides that are being researched as next-generation painkillers. And they have isolated a protein that protects nerve cells during disruptions in blood supply to the brain. If administered within a few hours, it saves neurons from dying. The venom we fear could turn out to be a medicine that saves millions of lives. For more than 50 years, humanity has been trying to reproduce spider silk. In the early 21st century, scientists inserted the gene for spider silk protein into goats, and they began producing it in their milk. Today, synthetic spider silk is already being used in surgery for self-dissolving stitches and as a base for growing tissues. The defense industry is studying it as a material for lightweight armor. The structure of spider silk has become a model for designing cables for suspension bridges. The way spider legs adhere to surfaces has inspired the development of reusable adhesive materials. And the spider's sensitivity to vibrations has inspired engineers to create a new type of sensors that detect ground vibrations. In 1973, 2 ordinary orb weaver spiders were sent into space to an orbital station. They found themselves in zero gravity, conditions for which no evolution had prepared them. And what did they do? Just 2 days later, they adapted and began to weave geometrically correct circular webs, slightly thinner than on Earth, but true to form. The spiders managed to cope with zero gravity in 2 days. It took humans much longer. And here's the final figure that puts everything into perspective. According to scientists' estimates, spiders destroy between 400 and 800 million tons of insects worldwide each year. That's more than the weight of all humanity. All the people on the planet combined weigh less than the amount of insects that spiders consume in a single year. Without this pressure, Pest populations would grow to levels that no pesticides could handle. Spiders are a free self-repairing system of biological protection embedded in every ecosystem on the planet. They work for us every day, every night, on every continent, and ask for nothing in return. So the next time you see a spider in the corner of your room, take a moment to pause. Before you is a creature older than dinosaurs, one that produces material stronger than steel, one that may dream, one that can fly on electricity, and one that protects your crops, your garden, and your planet every day. Perhaps it deserves not a shoe, but at least to be left alone. Thank you for watching until the end. Thank you for subscribing.